Welcome to Reddit Tea Time. This story is from r/Am I Terrible. My husband and I have 2 daughters. Let's call them Emma and Sam. My husband died of a stroke 2 years ago and he left everything to me. I'm rewriting my will as well in case something happens to me. Originally, everything was split 50-50 between the girls, but now I'm splitting it 80-20 in favor of Emma. Emma has ADHD and isn't doing great in life. In those days, everyone just assumed she was lazy and she didn't get the help children today get until she was in her teens. She just managed to finish high school and is working at a retail store as a stalker. It's backbreaking and she doesn't have much in the way of savings or anything. Her car was her father's when he passed. Sam works in tech as a project manager and her husband is a doctor. They live in a $1 million house and have 2 kids. I'm not worried about Sam. She's always been very capable and excelled at everything. She was always the overachiever and I don't think she needs help financially. She and her husband probably make $500,000 after taxes a year. I want Emma to inherit the house and car when I pass. I think it'll be good for her because she can live in it or sell it and buy another one. Sam will be fine and she and her husband have several houses and a summer home. But Sam is angry with me because I've made it clear that Emma gets most of our belongings. The bank savings and stocks will go to Sam, but if I live to my 80s, she won't have too much, probably 20-30% of what the house is worth. But I think it's fair because she's doing much better. Sam called me to yell at me saying I'm favoring Emma. I reminded her of how much worse off Emma is than she, but she said since they were both my daughters, she should get things 50-50 or it's favoritism. She reminded me that growing up, we always spent more on Emma than her. But that's because she was at the top of her class while Emma was failing. I put Emma in extra tutoring and the like because she needed it more. She said I should will half of the inheritance to her children for college funds, but I reminded her she makes more and can save for them. I told her it's not about me favoring Emma over her, but Emma is worse off and she'll be fine, which resulted in her hanging up and refusing to come over for Christmas. You're definitely being unfair, and it sounds like you've been that way for a long time. Look, I get it. As a parent, you want to help your children out as much as possible. But you gotta make sure it's fair, right? In this case, it doesn't seem like you're being fair to Sam. Yeah, Emma is struggling, but that doesn't mean Sam should be left out in the cold. Yes, Emma needs help, and you're trying to give her a leg up, but you can't ignore Sam's needs either. It's not like she's rolling in dough, but it seems like you're treating her like she is. And if you keep this up, you're gonna drive a wedge between you and Sam. You can't see into the future. You're making some huge assumptions about Sam's life that may not be true. Things are constantly changing and you can't possibly know what'll happen to her tomorrow, a year from now, or 10 years down the line. This story is from r/Am I Terrible. About a year ago, my wife of 25 years passed away, 8 months after being diagnosed with cancer. Besides our 25-year-old son Andrew, she also had 3 other children, Allison, Barbara, and Caleb, from a prior marriage. Their father was never really around, so I have raised them as my own basically ever since I married their mom. My wife Anna's cancer was very difficult for me financially, and I wound up having to downgrade my card to pay for medical bills and make withdrawals from my 401k and take on a lot of debt. Shortly after Anna died, I met another woman, Beth, who I have since married. Given that we're living together in Beth's house, selling Anna's house made a lot of sense. When we were packing up the house, I asked Anna's kids if they wanted anything, and they said they didn't. I invested a large amount of money renovating the house and getting it ready to sell, and eventually found a house flipping company that would take it on. On the day of the closing, I was surprised to find out that Allison had sent an email to the lending company telling them that she had been reading up on state law and that since Anna's kids weren't mine, they were entitled to the portion she would have gotten from the sale. Turns out she was right. I feel like Anna's children deliberately chose to kneecap me, and they're insistent that Allison didn't know what was going on and was just asking questions. I should have been able to take the money Anna and I had saved up and start a new life. But now I'm probably going to have to sell the new motorcycle I just bought and have long wanted, and I'm not going to be able to get myself out of debt. This was supposed to be a fresh start for me, and now I'm stuck with the same old problems I've always had. The day of the eventual closing, I was still extremely upset, so when I woke up for work, I texted Allison, Barbara, and Caleb and let them know that I'd also been doing my own reading on our state's laws, and it turns out I'm not actually their father, and they should work on their relationship with the person who actually is. I also told them they were no longer welcome at my wedding, which was the next weekend. Upon finding out what I had said, Andrew was extremely upset with me. We met for lunch the following day, and I asked him to be my best man, and he told me that unless I apologized to his siblings, he didn't want to attend my wedding. I was hoping he'd get over it, but he hasn't talked to me since, saying he's too old to be a 25-year-old child of divorce, and that he was offended that I got married the weekend after the anniversary of his mother's funeral. To me, that date isn't particularly meaningful since the date that weighs on my heart is the one that she actually died. Beth thinks I should just swallow my pride and apologize so that Andrew will talk to me again, but I can't help but feel hard done by here. First of all, what kind of person tells kids he raised that he's not their dad, and then asks their kids if they want their deceased mom's things from the house, and then renovates the place to sell it without giving them a cut? And then when Allison points out that she's entitled to a share of the sale, you want to throw a tantrum and disinvite them from your wedding? Grow up. You're the one who messed up, and now you're trying to blame them for it. And don't even get me started on the timing of your wedding. That's so disrespectful. If you want your son Andrew to talk to you again, you better start apologizing and taking responsibility for your actions. This story is from r/Am I Terrible. My husband and I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she hates mushrooms. The taste, texture, and smell of them she cannot stand. She's not a picky eater by any means, but just doesn't like mushrooms. My mother-in-law lives with us and helps us by watching my daughter when she gets home from school. She makes dinner the nights we're working late for our daughter, as Mill loves to cook, so she ensured us that it would be no trouble for her to make our daughter dinner most nights. My husband and I both work in the medical field, so we have crazy unpredictable schedules and are not home most nights to make dinner. Last night, my husband and I both had the night off and were making dinner together. Mother-in-law went out for dinner with friends. Susie came to us crying, saying how she's sick and tired of being starved most nights, and if we can please make her dinners instead of mother-in-law. It's very public knowledge that Susie doesn't like mushrooms, but yet for the past few weeks, every single dish that mother-in-law has made for Susie has had the main component of mushrooms in it. Portobello mushroom burgers, mushroom risotto, mushroom pasta, etc. These dishes aren't made when either myself or my husband are around, but when we aren't, that's all Susie is served to eat. She told us that if she politely refuses to eat these dishes, my mother-in-law will tell her to suit herself, but she's not getting any food for the rest of the night, and that she has to outgrow this stupid mushroom hatred. Both my husband and I were extremely upset that our child is going to bed hungry every night due to my mother-in-law only making her dinners with the one ingredient she doesn't like and not allowing her to eat anything else. When mother-in-law got home, we confronted her about this. She started going off, saying that Susie needs to grow up and get over this stupid hatred of mushrooms. I told her that she's essentially starving her granddaughter. She disagreed and said it's tough love. She then proceeded to call me a bad mother for prioritizing my career over my child and not helping her get over this dislike towards a vegetable. I told her to get out of my house because she will not disrespect me like that. She ended up leaving but had some nasty things to say to me on the way out. My husband is 100% on my side and feels that his mother is out of line. We've been getting non-stop messages from my two sister-in-laws and my mother-in-law calling us every name in the book for kicking her out and that my daughter needs to get over herself. Am I terrible? What's wrong with this mother-in-law? You can't force someone to like something they don't like. It's not like mushrooms are the only food in the world, and to top it off, she's starving her own granddaughter because she won't eat them? That's abusive. And then she's blaming OP for being a bad mom for prioritizing her career over her child? Please. The mom is a medical professional. She's saving lives. Is OP terrible? Nope. OP did the right thing by kicking her out.